I remember back when I used to work at Walmart, there were times where my car was broken down and I would ride like a BMX bike, like 10, 12 miles to work in like the rain. And you won't get out of your own way. And like, you need to understand that like what you're doing has value, and like you are going to come out of this, and then you're going to conquer, and you're going to do all these things. And I remember I was so fucking broke, dude. I'm riding like 400 mile weeks. And like, I can't even afford the food to like support that kind of calorie output.
Yeah.
And I was just like, dude, like just shoplifting food left, right, and center to keep surviving, and just all that kind of, suffering keeps you honest, and it's like you could choose your suffering, it's like you're going to suffer in this life. Anytime I feel lonely on the path, I'm like, I know fucking Joe's headed to work right now, and he's not going to fucking let up, so I can't either.
The fear of the storm is worse than the storm itself.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and if you want to be an outlier, if you don't want to be average, then you're going to have to do unaverage things.
Ready to roll?
Yeah, let's do it.
What is up, everybody? This is Joe Adams, and welcome to the Relentless Pursuit podcast. What we do on this podcast is bring in guests from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life to share their journey and everything along the way that led them to where they're at today. In a world full of filters, algorithms, and artificial everything, this podcast is a reminder of what's real. Unfiltered stories, raw emotion, and the kind of human connection that can't be faked. We're here to make an impact, and that is what we do. So if that is for you, like, subscribe, all those wonderful things. And if that is not for you, I don't know what your problem is, but it's time to jump on board today. Thank you. But without further ado, I would love to introduce today's guest, all the way from New York, Mr. Patrick Duggan.
Right on.
Your big thing is resilience, man. Like, you're a resilient motherfucker from hearing your story, bro. Like,
Thanks,
you had every reason to just like fail,
Yep.
But you didn't. So I think it's really dope hearing you
That's
share this.
That's something that I come back to all the time too. It's like, there have been times in my life, and we can get into this in a little bit, like where I have done crazy things to get something done, or to like accomplish something that like most people wouldn't do. But like, I think most people are looking for an excuse that most people would accept.
Yeah.
Like, as long as they have that, then they can like wash their hands of it and be like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, which is really sad, but like for me, I remember back when I used to work at Walmart, there were times where my car was broken down and I would ride like a BMX bike, like 10, 12 miles to work in like the rain. Fucking Walmart.
Yeah.
And people would be like, why? And I'd be like, because it's my job, and like, I need to get to work.
I appreciate the hell out of that.
Yeah. Like, I'll tell you a story in a little bit when we get to it.
Okay. I do, but I admire it, man. So it's really cool getting to hear all this from you. Not long after you'd heard about what had happened to the slum lord.
Yep.
Didn't really work out for him, but of course his actions weren't that great. But you had a new roommate that was going well, and you were your junior year. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, I had been feeling like, because you're at a high level art school. It's like everybody who I'm in school with was like the best at their high school. And then you take the best of those people and they're at this damn school. And a lot of them came from money and all this kind of stuff. And
true underdog you were.
Yeah. And I felt like I was just struggling to keep up. I remember feeling really embarrassed when I first got to art school too, because I didn't grow up going to like art galleries and stuff. For me, like, art was like Ed Repka and Frank Frazetta and like these guys that did like metal album covers or skateboard art, and that kind of stuff, which was seen. And then I knew graffiti writers, but like people would talk about, oh, you don't know the difference between Monet and Manet, like, or Man Ray, and like, no, I don't know who the hell these people are. And I kind of became obsessed with art history when I was in school, because I felt embarrassed and incompetent, and I never wanted to feel that way again.
Yeah.
So by the time I got to like my junior year, things really started to culminate, because I got so sick and tired of feeling less than. So I was just busting my ass, everything, and just kept coming back and hitting it again and hitting it again and hitting it again. And at some point, I actually had, I had never done mushrooms before. And I remember a friend of mine actually got me some, and I took them alone in my bedroom for the first time. And I took like a good amount. And I remember I was just working on some background for a painting, and I remember I started flipping through my own sketchbooks and looking at my own work and stuff. And it was my first time ever doing this stuff. And I remember like deeply resonating with my own work through that. And I remember talking to myself and being like, you're full of so much doubt and you won't get out of your own way. And like, you need to understand that like what you're doing has value, and like you are going to come out of this, and then you're going to conquer, and you're going to do all these things. And like, you need to just like take the brakes off, you know, you just need to let go and like lean into this whole thing. Like, this is your new life. And I remember like all of a sudden my work took a massive jump, and I felt like I started flexing some of that art history knowledge. And then all of a sudden I was getting really respected by my professors and stuff and other students. And I remember even professors commenting on it. They're like, Pat, I don't know what the hell happened to you the last like week, but all of a sudden, like everything's clicking.
Yeah.
Like your work just looks like it took a massive jump. And I want to say the second half of my junior year and then my senior year, I was finally like competitive. And my school had a massive dropout rate. Like I think it was like 78% of people dropped out.
Damn.
Without graduating from the program that I was in, which is the illustration department. And I was barely scraping by until that point. But then I started, I had a really good kind of mentor there. He was the chairman of the department. And he knew that I was interested in tattooing and stuff and everything else. He really put a lot of pressure on me too in a really good way, and pushed me really hard. And it was cool because he actually wasn't, I would bring in my artwork every week to show him. And he'd be like, he'd talk about it real quick. He'd be like, all right, let's get that out of the way. Tell me about who you met this week. Because he was like, Pat, I think you're a guy who's made to make connections. He's like, I think that's going to be your path to success, is connecting with people. He's like, I think he's like, I actually think you'd be a better curator than you would be an artist. And I kind of took that as a dig at the time.
Yeah.
But it was pretty cool though, because he pushed me to like put myself out there. He's like, it doesn't matter if you do all great work in your bedroom if nobody ever sees it. You know, he's like, you got to go out there, you got to meet people. He's like, Pat, you like all this music stuff, you got to be meeting musicians, you got to be talking with people, you got to be all this stuff. And I was happy for that. And then once I got out of college, graduated, I moved back to Long Island just because like I was a bike messenger. I was delivering packages on a bicycle.
Yeah.
And I remember I was so fucking broke, dude. I'm riding like 400 mile weeks. And like, I can't even afford the food to like support that kind of calorie output. Yeah. And I was just like, dude, like just shoplifting food left, right, and center to keep surviving and just all that kind of, because barely making any money. And I ended up getting hit by a car while I was a bike messenger. And like, I basically couldn't ride a bike for like 2 months, fell behind on all my bills, had to start selling like my guitars and my keyboards and art stuff and my drawing table, just anything I could pawn off. And eventually I couldn't catch back up. So I had to kind of let my apartment go, move back out to where I was originally from. And I was like, all right, well, this is an opportunity for me to try getting back into tattooing again.
But you finished school?
Yeah.
Yeah. So ultimately graduated and, got a little chaotic after that. You're like, no, dude, this is what I'm trying to avoid.
Funny. It got so chaotic. They handed me at my graduation a fake diploma. And then I was supposed to go and pick up my real one. I never went and picked it up because I had so much shit going on.
It's still there.
No, I actually got it like 6 months ago.
You went there and got it?
Dude, it was like 12 years later.
They're like, oh, we've been waiting on this. They just like knocked the dust off.
Yeah, exactly.
Gandalf, right? Like,
but I was like, it's so funny. I spent all this money, went into all this debt for this degree, and I've never even seen it. Nobody's ever asked for it. But I got back to living back on Long Island, and I had moved back. It was right in about when October was coming. And when I was in high school, I used to work at this haunted house in Octobers, like pretty much all through high school. Because a lot of the guys that played in bands and shit that were in punk and metal bands all worked as actors at this haunted house. So they kind of brought me in there. And I was really good at it. I love scaring the living shit out of people. So every year I'd come back. And then when I moved away, I was bummed out. Like, I can't
scare people.
Yeah. So I came back and it was right before the season started. So I called up the owner and I was like, hey, man, you mind if I come back for a season? And he was like, hell yeah. And I started kind of trying to get an apprenticeship again. And this really famous tattooer who was one of the best in the county where I'm at actually had just opened up his own shop. He had left the shop that he had been working at for many, many years. I walked in there and was like, hey, I want to learn how to tattoo. And he actually went to the same college I did. It was this guy, Irish J. And we started talking, and he was like, yeah, I'll teach you. He's like, if you could graduate from there, like, you know, and he checked out my portfolio and everything. And he was like, yeah, you know, come on in.
That had to feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And like, honestly, again, one of the best tattooers in the county.
Yeah.
You know, like hands down. And he does a lot of like realism portrait stuff and then that kind of thing.
It's cool.
So I was really hyped. And he had this other guy, Steve, that just started working for him, who just closed up one of his shops. He had owned 3 shops prior, was like a 20-year tattoo vet. So I would be working alongside him. And it was basically just the 3 of us. And then you had a couple other guys kind of coming and going. But like, just to be able to hands-on learn from those 2 guys was like huge. But kind of as I was getting into that, I was still working at the haunted house at night. And that's actually where I met my now fiance.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, she was an actor there as well, but she was a few years younger than me. And initially she was still in high school, and she, you know, we knew each other and that kind of thing. We had a lot of mutual friends, but again, like I'm like 23 and she's 17.
Yeah.
So, you know, like I wasn't even looking at her like that at all or anything, or, you know, that kind of thing. But then a couple of years went by and she started getting tattooed by me, you know, and things had definitely changed, you know, when she was 22 at the time. So I was like 28.
Yeah. You're like,
you know,
she's a woman now.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
100%. She
This
moved
is
away.
appropriate.
She moved away for a while, went to college, all that kind of stuff and everything. Like, you know, so we just like, we could see eye to eye then.
Cool.
You know, once she started coming back, and it was totally different. Like I was just, we immediately were just kind of like, yeah, we should.
Have y'all been together since then?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Dude, like first time tattooing her, we were kind of like, yeah, when are we going on a date? Like, you know, it was kind of like, yeah, like 2 nights later, like, you know, I drove her out to my favorite taco spot in Brooklyn, and it's been pretty much ever since. I think I moved in like 3 months. Like we moved in together like 3 months after we started dating.
Hell yeah. I love
You
that,
know?
dude. Hey, I'm a sucker for a good love story, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's great. That's good shit.
Dude, like it's so funny. There was a situation recently where we were talking, and I was like, we were in mixed company. I didn't really know everybody. And I was like, I'm so glad we don't have some lame ass Match.com like story of how we met. Like we met as actors at a haunted house. That's fucking cool.
That is
and
pretty
like
dope.
This other couple we were with were like, we met on Match.com. She's like my chick is like stomping on my foot like, you fucking asshole. Like,
I mean, what are the chances though? God.
I mean, most people meet on a dating app like that.
We
now,
met
but-
we met on Instagram.
Yeah.
You know, like it's that simple, you know, but
Yep.
I mean, it works out,
Yep.
but y'all's story is pretty dope.
Yeah, it was cool. But so I started tattooing, and like honestly, so the funny story I was going to tell you off camera, I was alluding to, I wanted to tell this funny story. I was a bike messenger in New York City, and I had moved back out to the suburbs and was going to be tattooing, and like I was working at the haunted house and everything, but I had a fixed gear messenger bike. I didn't have a car. So I was just riding my bicycle everywhere, and it was about like 10 miles every night for me to get to the haunted house, which was along these like cornfield fucking roads. So I'd be riding home at 2 a.m. in the pitch black through cornfields on a bicycle, and everybody at the haunted house thought I was out of my fucking mind. And you know, it gets pretty chilly out in October in New York, you know, but and then I would ride to the tattoo shop every day, which was more like probably 2 miles. But I remember when I started my apprenticeship, one of the first things I had to do was I had to take a bloodborne pathogen test, where I basically like learn how to not make people sick and get my certification from the health department. I had to probably ride about like 20 miles to get to the test for the health department to get my certification. And at the time, like I had no money either. So I was like, you know, eating kind of like crap food. And I had, in my backpack, I actually had like a dozen bananas and like, you know, a can of beans. And I was basically living on that kind of stuff. And I worked overnight super late at the haunted house. And I had to go to the test early in the morning. So I don't even know if I slept that night. I got on my bicycle and I had to ride the like 20 miles to the test. And I rolled up, and I'm introducing myself to all these other tattooers that are there, because you have to retake this test every 3 years when you're a tattoo artist in my county. So you have to recertify. So I'm meeting all of these guys there. They're like, oh, what shop you work at? And I told them, you know, like, oh, I work at Irish J's, you know, like I'm just starting my apprenticeship. They're like, oh, dude, Irish J's the man. He's going to take good care of you. That's awesome, this and that. We get into the class, dude. And like, again, like I'm on hardly any food. I'm like, riding my bicycle. I just rode 20 miles after working all night at a haunted house. I get into the class. You got to sit through a 2.5 hour class, and then you take this written test afterwards where like you got to answer all these questions and everything. I passed the fuck out during this class, drooling on the fucking desk, like snoring. All the other tattooers in the room were like laughing at me and shit and everything else. And the teacher just let me fucking sleep. And when it came time to get the test, she actually let me take it. She wasn't expecting me to pass it. I ended up getting a 98 on it.
Hell yeah.
Like out of 100, and I only needed like a 70 to pass. It was pretty easy, dude. Like some of these questions were like...
Pretty obvious.
When you finish a tattoo, should you watch it with A, ketchup, B, mustard, C, mayonnaise, or D, soap? I'm like, it's not that fucking hard.
Mayonnaise.
Yeah.
That's nuts, dude.
But
still.
So I left the thing and I rode right to the tattoo shop. And I remember like, pounding a shitload of coffee and just like getting through maybe 4 hours at the tattoo studio. And everybody was like, congratulations, you fucking got your certification and everything else. Another tattooer that was in that class called up the tattoo shop, got my Irish J, my mentor, on the phone and was like, hey, dude, I just want to let you know your new apprentice is a junkie, dude. He fell asleep during class. Like he was like, strung out during class and like he looked really fucked up. And luckily, my career could have been over right there. My mentor knew kind of a bit of the type of life I was living at that point. He laughed and he was just like, no, man, he's just a fucking psychopath who's extremely tired. And he's busting his ass. Thank you though for letting me know. So that kind of became like an ongoing joke as I continued tattooing, cause like other guys in the class thought I was a junkie.
That sucks. But at the same time, it's good. Like, they knew who you were and your lifestyle. You were committed as shit. They were like, nah, this guy's straight, man. He's got nothing to worry about.
Yeah, not for nothing too. Like I'd be painted up with the makeup at the haunted house. So all that month, like it was impossible for me to get all the black out from around my eyes. So I'm sure my eyes look sunken in too, because like every night I got to put a full face of fucking haunted house makeup on. So like it probably wasn't helping me look any less like a strung out junkie.
Their assumptions weren't. You can see where they made. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, it's completely understandable.
Dude,
I finished my tattoo apprenticeship in about 8 months. You need at least a minimum of 1,000 hours. I racked up 1,850, I think, when I finished. And I basically just lived at the fucking tattoo shop.
Yeah.
What the hell did I have to go home to anyway? I had like a little tiny apartment and everything, but I had no reason to be there. I was a single guy, no family really, nothing. Yeah. I was like, I'm just going to live at the tattoo studio.
Yeah.
And my career took off and it was really good for a long time. I just kind of was cranking away and my mentor kind of put me in a bit of a leadership position at the tattoo shop and he had kids and everything and he was super busy and he started kind of stepping away from the tattoo shop a bit and leaving me in charge. I was by far the youngest guy at the shop, and these guys had seen me from where I started until growing in the industry and becoming like a respected artist. And I felt like some of the old guys that I was around started to resent me for it. They started trying to sabotage me and everything else. And, like I was trying to go to my mentor about it and I was like, dude, you don't understand. You're not around to see it. And like, you put me in this kind of position of being a leader, but like these guys don't, like I'm half their age. I don't got kids. I don't got none of this stuff. And it kind of ended up blowing up in my face. A guy that I really looked up to threatened to kill me, told me basically he created a monster. He wanted to break my hands and fucking, I should have never fucking started in tattooing and all this stuff. So I decided I was going to leave and start my own place because I was like, dude, I don't want to go anywhere else. And like this happened again, like where I'm like, I guess maybe I just can't work around other people, so I found a place that was like, honestly, these landscapers were squatting in it prior and it was like piled up garbage everywhere. And this guy offered me a really good price if I wanted to just do the work and build this place out. But I was really worried because like in the industry and tattooing, like guys find out that you're opening up a shop, they'll do everything they can to like make sure it doesn't happen.
No shit.
They don't want competition, and I was getting phone calls from other local tattooers being like, hey, I heard you left. What's your plan? And I'm like, I'm not sure yet. They're like, oh, as long as you're not opening up a shop anywhere near me, we're still cool. If you do, there's going to be a problem. Because they smell blood in the water.
And people get,
there's
plenty of people out there trying to get tattoos.
Yeah, that's what I said.
You can't tattoo them all.
Yeah, and like, dude, some of these guys that were calling me up, like they do completely different work than I do.
Yeah,
like,
there's that aspect too.
You know, I'm like, does the pizza shop get upset that like a fucking steakhouse opened on the other side of town? Like, you know, like no.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess they were afraid to compete on an even playing field.
But what's interesting about that with me, like having a brand, you know, if there's another brand, like, you know, the owner or whatever, I'm like, I'm going to support them.
Yeah.
I'm going to root them on.
Especially if like you're like-minded people.
It's just going to push me to, but I also see like, hey, I want to see more of my shirts out there or whatever. Right. Yep. So I'm going to, you know, I'm going to push. Right. But I'm not going to do it in a dirty way. Like I'm still going to support you. You know what I'm saying? Like if anything, that should instill like a positive competition, just make you level up as an artist or an individual, right? Mm-hmm. That's how I look at it. So, I mean, and then your story from what you came from, I mean, you think they just have the utmost respect for that. It's wild that people started to resent you. But man, one thing I've realized in so many ways in life, like when you're progressing as an individual, whether it's just personally or professionally, people resent that, man.
Yeah. People want to see you do good, but not better than them.
Yeah.
It's true in some cases. You know, you meet some rare ones, but
yeah,
you know, you definitely find some people that's definitely the case.
I've seen that a lot, man. It's kind of heartbreaking too. Because it could be people that you were close to and they see you like, oh, you've changed, and they'll say all kinds of negative shit.
You're supposed to.
It's
You're
like,
supposed to change.
Yeah, I'm glad I have. Yeah. Thanks for showing me who you truly are.
Yeah.
You know, so it's definitely, it definitely sits with me. I did want to ask though, going back to school real quick.
Yep.
You know, because you hear a lot of people saying, oh, school's a waste of time. School's a waste of time. And yes and no. I mean, there's multiple arguments. It can definitely be helpful. But despite of what you acquired as far as the degree goes, you making it happen is truly the value from it. Like, not even the degree, the fact that you made that happen and the links you went to do so, like that says everything. And like that's the lesson right there.
I don't tell most people that I think it's the right path. I wouldn't copy the path that I did.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, it was what I had to do. And I operated with the information I had at the time. But like, you know, my tattoo apprentice, the one that's working for me now, and the guy now, they've both asked me like, hey, do you think I should take classes? I'm like, no, dude, I'll give you the long and short of it. You know, like it's not necessary. I feel like for me, it was just immersion and living. That's like, those are where I got the real tools.
Yeah.
And it's like my current tattoo apprentice, I'm just like, dude, you need to learn about tattoo history. You need to learn about the current tattoo culture. You need to learn all about tattoo imagery, what it's like being in a tattoo studio, the culture, all that kind of stuff. You need to just be a fish in water.
Yeah.
You know, like it needs to be natural.
Yeah.
And for me, like art school, that's really what it gave to me. It gave me like that immersion because like I didn't really know anybody other than my friend's dad that like was a professional artist. And then I started going to art school and I have these guys, like I was in classes with, you know, like the president of my school, I would see him in the elevator all the time. He designed the I Love New York logo and the Love Park logo.
That's pretty big. Yeah, that's pretty well known.
Yeah, there was this guy, Victor Cohen. He was a graphic design professor I'd taken with. Me and him butted heads constantly, but he, you know, like V8 Splash, Febreze, fucking all these companies. He designed the logos for them, multimillionaire.
What?
And then like I had this guy, Regino Gonzalez. He used to own a tattoo studio with Troy Denning called Invisible Ink.
Yeah.
It was a huge tattoo studio in New York City. He was like kind of an insider in the tattoo world, but he was like a super successful tattoo artist.
Yeah.
You know? Like, and, you know, I had Peter Cooper and, you know, there were other guys that like were recent alumni from the school. I remember Jonan Vasquez, who was the creator of Invader Zim, just graduated from my college.
Super cool.
Like, you know, like I'm in classes that he sat in like right before, you know, like, and, so just being in that environment though, it's like, at first it's intimidating because you're like, holy shit, this guy is like, or Gary Panter was another, he designed the entire set of Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Yeah.
Went to school with him.
What?
You know,
what a random thing too.
Yeah, he was one of the professors at my school. And like, you're intimidated by these guys until, you know, you start to get to know them as people. And they come walking into class with like ketchup stains on their shirt. And you're like, wait a second, this guy is a normal fucking guy. And he did this shit. I can do that too then.
Dude.
It demystifies the whole thing. So for me, like the benefit wasn't the actual like sitting down and here's how you draw this. It's like seeing these people as humans and then being like, I can fucking do this because I'm around these guys all the time and they're just a regular guy like me.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's the whole thing. It's like, and when you're growing up like I did as a kid, you know, like when that's the only thing you see around you, you think that that's all that's possible.
Yeah.
But when you're around people that you see that there's a whole other way of doing things, that changes you and that opens up possibilities.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if another man could do it, then so can you.
Oh, dude, I mean, I look at high level entrepreneurs, right? Like Andy Frisella, for example, First Form. I disagree with a lot of stuff he says, but I agree with, I mean, in a lot of his journey I resonate with, you know, in the entrepreneurship realm. And I respect it, right? But then I look at him and, you know, it's that comparison thing. Like, I don't compare like a place like, you know, where it steals from me. I would compare as like guys like that. Like, those are the top dudes in the world. Like, what do they have that I don't?
Yeah.
Time. But I've got the same drive. I've got all these other things, all these tools. I just got to keep going.
I think it's too. Some of these guys are older than us.
Yeah, exactly. They
older.
They
so
put in their time.
And yeah, that's what you're saying. You're like, what's the difference between me and them? 10 years.
Yeah.
Who knows what the fuck will happen in 10 years?
Yeah, I'm going to crush it. I'm just going to keep going.
Yep.
Like, you know.
I got that dog in me. Trust me.
100%, man. And I see that in you, you know, and it's really cool, man, just hearing your story and all the different layers of it, dude. And you're able to teach people from a whole different experience. Like, hey, maybe you don't need to go to that school. You can just teach them from your raw experience that you went through.
At the time when I went to go start my tattoo studio, I was the only one that I really knew from my friend group who started a business. So I was I didn't have anybody to ask. I didn't have nothing. And I was kind of figuring this stuff out on my own. And I made a bunch of mistakes that like I see now how I wouldn't make that mistake again.
Yeah, same.
And I've helped my friends not do that. Like I remember when I was first I went on LegalZoom.com and I was trying to get myself an LLC with a DBA below it because that's the way that the tattoo shop I worked at went.
Yeah.
Once I actually finished that, I went to go get myself a checking account, a business checking account. And it took me probably 2 months of reading and filling out forms and sending things away. And like, I don't know, probably $1,400 or something, right?
Yeah.
To get this LLC. I get my EIN number. I go to get my checking account. And the bank asked me like, hey, do you have a business accountant? I was like, no. They're like, we have ones that the bank works with. Can we set you up with one? Sure. I go and sit down with this guy. He immediately says, he's like, I'm sorry to tell you this, but like, you should really set it up as an S Corp, not an LLC. And I was like, shit. I'm like, can you change it? He's like, no, once it's made, that's a thing. So we need to just reset up this entire, and I'm like, I just went through all of this shit trying to get this LLC. And he goes like, the good news is I can do it for you for $400 in a couple hours. So had I gone back, I would have just hired an accountant out of the fucking gate and they would have done it for me.
Yeah.
So like that was an expensive and annoying lesson for me to learn where I could have just done the direct path had I known, but I didn't know to do that.
Yeah.
So now like when some of my friends wanted to start their own construction company or whatever, or a painting company, I'm like, dude, just go get an accountant first and let them do it for you. You know, they'll get you set up with ADP so you can, you know, run yourself payroll and all that stuff and everything else. All this shit that I had to figure out myself. They can get you set up with a retirement plan, which I did and all that and everything. It's like, you know, and I'm so happy that I can be there for my friends now that are looking to start their own businesses.
Yeah.
Because I went through without really having people to ask. And at the time, I wasn't yet dating my fiance, or otherwise I would have had her entire family to ask because they're all super entrepreneurial. But when I went to go start the tattoo studio, like I was saying earlier, there was all of this kind of bitterness and like, you know, kind of spitefulness within the industry and people who didn't want to see and were keeping an eye on what I was doing.
Yeah.
I had made plans months earlier before I left the other tattoo shop to go get my knuckles tattooed by this artist that I really liked his work. He goes by Oil Burner in Los Angeles. And I was really thinking about canceling, but I was like, you know what? I think I need to get away from here. It would be good for me to go to LA for like 2 weeks. I was going to go there to tattoo. And I booked a shitload of appointments while I was there. And it was my first time going. And I stayed super busy. It's really a shame, but I feel like a lot of people today do not believe in redemption as a concept.
Oh, dude.
But, you know, if you're really about it, then like, fuck yeah, dude. But like, I feel like a lot of people know they like, you know, with all this like cancel culture shit, like, you know, people don't want to think that people can change. You know, like, oh, well, he said something racist in 1972. I'm like, that was a long fucking time ago. Maybe he's changed as a fucking person.
Yeah,
like,
they got a lot of time to be unracist.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, they're like, that's a long fucking time.
Dude,
like,
it's so funny you say that, like, because I think about things. I haven't been perfect in my past, but, you know, it all circles back to, like, now. I don't know. I made a decision. I say like my wife is a massive inspiration. When I met her, I was like, I'm going to be the best man I can. Like, and I'll give her all the credit for that because that's just what she fired up in me. I just remember telling myself that. And screw what I've done in the past. Screw how I've gone about certain things. That's no longer who I am. You know, what matters is who I am tomorrow. And so I'm just going to keep stepping forward with righteous action.
Yep.
And if you do so, you can correct those things, right? It's almost like a karmic reset in a way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think I 100% agree with that capability. I think you mess with kids. Okay, maybe.
Yeah. There's some irredeemable things.
Yeah, there's some things like that. But I mean, I do think you can completely redeem yourself, dude. Everybody's able to change. I think that's a beautiful thing too.
Well, again, we were talking about convenient excuses that people will accept.
Anyways, but back on your story, man. So oil
burner.
Okay.
So I was actually going to get tattooed my knuckles by this guy, Oil Burner. And he was actually working at one tattoo shop when he was out there, and it was a really well-known, like, it's kind of like the SoundCloud rapper tattoo shop.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you were a SoundCloud rapper and you want to get a face tattoo, this is the spot.
Okay.
But the guys that work there were really cool. And when I told him I wanted to come out to get tattooed, I was like, hey man, well, I'm going to want to, like, let's get this nailed down because I'm going to want to tattoo while I'm out there. So I got to find a shop that I can work at. And he was like, why don't you come work at the shop I work at? He's like, I'll ask the owner and see if he's cool with it. So he asked him and he ended up being cool with it. But by the time I got out there, he had actually left and went to another shop that was like a few blocks away that had just opened. He was still cool with all the guys at that tattoo shop, but I was like, oh, can I still work there? And I was talking to him and he was like, yeah, dude. He's like, you can still work there. I'll even pop in from time to time to say what's up to those guys and everything. So I ended up working at that shop, even though Oil Burner wasn't working there anymore, but there was a whole crew of guys that were super cool there. They were super inviting.
That's cool.
I had a really good time. I stayed super busy. The owner actually ended up offering me a job. Basically just being like, dude, if you want to move out here, like, you know, you'd be more than welcome. You have a chair. And I was like, no, I had just started building my shop back on Long Island. But I came up with an idea because I was so worried about another tattooer finding out what I was doing, that I was building another shop. I had heard stories about other shops trying to open, and then people would like call in connections and basically get like, so they wouldn't get permits. They would get them all jammed up, you know, that kind of thing. Like, threatening people, all that kind of stuff. So I talked to, when he offered me the job, I came up with this idea and I was like, hey dude, explain to him the situation I had going on back in New York. I was like, do you mind if I basically on my social media make it look like I live in California and I work here? I'm like, I could basically take all the tattoos I did here and spread them out to make it look like I'm just tattooing full time here. He was like, dude, I understand what you're going through, and like, go ahead. I don't give a shit. So I went back to New York and fabricated this whole story that I was living in Los Angeles. And I lived about like 5, 6, 7 miles away from the tattoo shop I was building. And it was off of the main strip. I was like in an industrial park kind of thing, off the beaten path. But I would actually, it was the middle of the summer, and I would walk to work with a hoodie up, sunglasses on, everything else, my beard tucked into my shirt and everything, so I was unrecognizable. Yeah. And I would walk to work every day in the blistering fucking heat so that nobody would recognize me. Dang. Walking on the roads as little as I possibly could. I would walk through the woods. Luckily, most of the route, I could walk this trail to get to work.
Dang.
And if I bumped into somebody in a gas station or something, they'd be like, Mr. California, what are you doing here? My story was always, I'm just here to get some things out of a storage unit. I'm going right back to California. And I spent a couple months building that shop and just kind of tattooing people I trusted on the low. Yeah. And then when I was able to finally open, it was like, surprise, motherfuckers, I never left. Dang. And I got a new shop, like, you know? So, and the fucked up thing, though, is that was December of 2019 and March of 2020. So 3 months later, we got shut down for COVID. Dang. So it took me 9 months to build that shop, and then I got shut down within 3 of opening. Yeah. So, and actually, so another cool thing, what Oil Burner actually did on me was he asked me what he wanted written on my knuckles. It says Vamachara on my knuckles. Yeah. Which is the name of my tattoo studio.
For the viewers, listeners, what does that mean?
So Vamachara is the Sanskrit word for left-hand path. The left-hand path is kind of a umbrella term for a bunch of different spiritual traditions, originally in Hinduism, but it kind of describes, people have started to apply it to things like Western Satanism, Luciferianism, that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And because in the Bible as well, like the left hand is kind of seen as the sinister hand. You know, it's the unorthodox, the heretical, all that kind of stuff. And for me, even on a positive note, you know, like it resonated with my kind of like feeling of being a bit of an outlaw and an outsider, but it also was like there were things that I wanted to do in the tattoo industry that I wanted to be different than what I saw around me.
Yeah.
A lot of tattoo shops you walk in, it's like, sit down, shut the fuck up, pick something off the wall. Your idea is fucking stupid, you know, like this and that. And people are just unfriendly, you know, and like my shop's whole aesthetic is very aggressive. We got upside down crosses all over the place and everything, but we are inviting as hell. People come in, you know, I hook them up with a drink, you know, like we hang out. I try and stay involved with, like, you know, staying in touch with my clients. I try and build and like we just try and make them as comfortable as possible. Like, you know, like I started getting sponsored by a numbing cream company, which was really controversial in the tattoo industry, but we became like the numbing cream shop.
Nice.
You know, and I was like, hey, I'm in the business of giving you whatever experience you want. Like, if you want to experience the pain, that's part of the process for you. I resonate with that.
Yeah.
But if you also just want to get through it because you like the artwork, I'm there for that too, dude. I'm there to sell you the experience you want to have. If that's full blown, I want to experience every bit of the pain because it's a spiritual thing for me, or that's just how you earn it, cool. If you want to feel next to nothing, cool by me too.
Yeah.
You know, but that was super controversial. And like, for me, it was just like that willingness and dedicated to be hated and like be an outsider. You know, like for me, that was Vamachara, the left-hand path. And a lot of people look at like, oh, why would you name your tattoo shop something so weird? You know, it's like people have a hard time sometimes finding us and everything. And I'm like, you know, because I should have called it Inked Angel or fucking, you know.
I love it, dude.
Yeah, they fucking Crazy Asylum or whatever. Like, you know, it's like, it's all these, like, you see these tattoo shops, a red rose tattoo. It's like, you know, it's forgettable, you know, like,
yeah.
For me, you know, like, I think it was more of a mission statement, you know? So I was like, I don't care what people think about, like, that's a weird name for a tattoo studio. I'm like, I kept that close to my chest. I'm like, no, man, it's a mission statement.
And it means something to you. Like you poured so much into your journey and to get there. So like, why the hell would you just throw a blanket name over it? That almost waters it down, right?
Yep.
Like to me, like Relentless Pursuit's a mission statement, dude.
Yep,
That logo,
exactly.
It'll never change because it means something so much deeper. It doesn't matter if I should like keep up with the times now, dude, because I know what it stands for.
Yeah, and for me, like, so the left-hand path is kind of characterized typically. Again, it's a list of characteristics that usually fit like different spiritual traditions, and one of the main things is that in most religions, what is the ultimate goal of religions as most people see them? It's submission to God and reunification with the whole.
Yeah.
So like basically like a drop of water in an ocean becoming back a part of the ocean.
Yeah.
People feel separate from God. People want to seek. And in a way, it's like, I view that as a kind of annihilation. It's kind of nihilistic in its own way, even if it's like got this positive dressing to it. I look at a lot of mainstream religions and I'm like, I seek individuation, not sort of oneness. You know, I want to be more of an individual. I want to be more separate. I want to be, and for me, that changes the way that like I don't submit to the gods that I worship.
Yeah.
For me, like Odin is my patron deity.
Yeah.
And I've been fond of saying like, we spar with our gods.
Yeah.
That's like,
that's cool.
And it's like, you know, you could spar with somebody who's a world-class boxer. That guy could smash you at any point.
Yeah.
He could fucking destroy you. But if you're sparring, like they let you work, they let you get in. When I'm in a jiu-jitsu class and I'm working with a black belt, they let you work a little bit, you know, like that guy you're not going to pull one over on him.
Yeah.
That's how I look at relationship to deity, is I see them as mentors and teachers that are obviously way more powerful than us, but by working with them, we are then taking in small amounts of that chaos that they're able to give us that then allows us to become more like them.
Dude.
You know, you build up that tolerance to the poison kind of a way, and you become more and more over time through continuous exposure to that force.
Man, I connect with that so well. I actually wrote a piece. It's like the 12 and the 1. I use 12 different gods, but it's also to show their characteristics. And it's it starts with like the patron deity, like mine's Odin as well.
Yep.
But there's also, you know, a link to like Tyr and Freya in a lot of ways. But, you know, of these gods, I've got like Loki in there, but I connect each of these gods with something that Christ did. Because like my wife's Christian, most of the people I know are, right? So I try to show them like, hey, this is how this connects. You know, like I wrote it in a piece. It's like we could be walking in parallel paths towards the same light, just speaking the language of spirit in different tongues, right? Mm-hmm. It's just interesting to hear your understanding of it and how you connect with it. I don't look at it as like this external thing, though, to seek God. Same as you. It goes back to the Bible. It says, I am the way, the truth, and the light. Yep. A lot of people look at it as like he's saying that he is. So only through Christ is the way to God. No, but I see it as, no, he's saying I am. Like that light is within me. That is the way. And so I look at it in a very individual way too, like that light. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Controversial and probably blasphemous to most people out there listening, kind of a way of viewing things. But I see Jesus or a character like Hercules. People don't understand these stories. These were men who showed you that it was possible to ascend to godhood in the flesh.
Oh yeah.
So Jesus is a pathway. It's showing that it is possible to, like Nietzsche's Übermensch, go beyond what is possible for human beings. I don't think that it's a coincidence that, you know, Nietzsche actually seemed quite fond of Jesus. He just didn't really like his followers too much.
Yeah.
You know, and he said, you know, the last good Christian died on the cross was something that Nietzsche said.
Oh yeah.
But I think that in a lot of ways, Nietzsche would have looked at a character like Jesus as being a Übermensch of sorts, like somebody who went beyond that tightrope, you know, between man and beast, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, you can actually look at modern day Hindus, and a lot of them acknowledge, because Hinduism is like the only unbroken pagan tradition still existing.
Stems from Sanatana Dharma. Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah. That, like, you know, like me and you, we're coming out of a predominantly Norse pagan sort of current, but that's not an unbroken current.
Yeah.
There was a long time where that was broken. Like we didn't have these traditions being passed down.
Yeah.
And now some guys like us are trying to bring that back, but we can't claim that these things are unbroken. Hinduism can.
Yeah.
And if you look at a lot of modern day Hindus, they actually believe that Jesus was an incarnation of other gods and part of that line, and they acknowledge him as a god on earth.
Yeah.
And it's because paganism was always intended to be fluid and to like change over time. So I think that it's really interesting when I see other people, especially that are Norse pagans, and they seem so adverse to the idea that Norse paganism would eventually assimilate Jesus into their pantheon. I think that he would be.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, in some ways, and I think much in the way that, like, you know, Balder or fucking Bragi or like Skadi, like these are very specific gods that have very specific functions. Like you don't call Idun when there's a war.
Yeah.
You know, like so Jesus doesn't need to be a war god to be accepted into a modern Norse pantheon.
Yeah.
You know, and I am very interested in Gnosticism as well, and I've read some of the Gnostic books that were kind of the banned books and everything else. And I've come to the conclusion that I actually think Jesus might have even been a left-hand path individual with lineage tracing back to Lucifer, actually, instead of the Christian God, because I kind of took that understanding that the Christian God, it's almost like the Bible's begging you at so many points to question, like, because of the pettiness and stuff of the Old Testament God.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and I think the Gnostics do a really interesting way of breaking down and understanding that maybe he isn't the true God. Maybe he isn't who he says he is. And maybe Jesus's whole thing was showing that we can break free of the chains that are put in place for us and ascend to the throne of God.
Just walk the path.
To become more divine in the flesh.
Yes. Someone asked me recently, they were like, do you think you know Jesus? And I knew what they were alluding to, but I was like, to be honest, I know Christ better than I ever have my whole life. I tried so hard to be a follower of Christ for 20-something years. My path has led elsewhere. And now I can say I understand him better than I ever did. It's very interesting, you know, but it's the walk, it's the actions. I mean, it's righteous action moving forward.
Yep. I go back and forth a lot on, like, you know, I like Jesus as a character. There's definitely things in the Bible that I resonate with from an outside perspective.
Yeah.
And, you know, not for nothing, I think I very much agree with the Nietzschean perspective that, like, it's a type of operating system for your life. Now, if you look at the life of most atheists and then most religious folk, most religious people that you know, religious people seem much more happy. They seem much more fulfilled in life.
Yeah.
They seem much more. So it's like, even if you are correct, theoretical atheist out there, like, if your life is more miserable for it, then like, what's the fucking point? Like, you know, it should be making your life better. But yet, like, time and time again, you meet these miserable, depressed atheists who feel like there's no meaning in life or anything. Yeah. Now, as much as Nietzsche wasn't Christian, I think he would have said, and I've kind of read things that point to this, is like, better to be a Christian than to be like a nihilistic atheist. You're better off sticking with that. It might not be the best operating system, but you'll get better results out of it.
Yeah, it gives you that higher purpose as well.
And I think Christianity is a great religion, and most monotheistic religions that people follow today are great religions for the mass group of herd people.
Yeah.
You know, I think that it's not a great system for great men because it's, you know, a lot of what is traditional strength. Mm-hmm. You know, if you asked what is the good, which is a lot of what Nietzsche's book, The Genealogy of Morals, is about what is the good.
Yeah.
The good in ancient Greece or Rome would have been the beautiful, the strong, the accomplished. Like, those were the people that God loved the most.
Yeah.
If you were downtrodden, if you were, you know, lowly, all that kind of stuff, they're like, oh, what did you do to piss the gods off?
Yeah.
Now, there's flaws to that way of thinking, but like, Christianity almost completely inverts that whole thing, where it's like you have the exaltation of the lowly, the meek, the sick and the impoverished and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, when you make that the good, charity and all these kind of things, there's not really space for the truly great.
Yeah.
In there. You know, it's almost seen as, if you are successful, you did it by stepping on other people's backs, or you need to give more, or you need to do these kind of things. And I think for me, like, that's where we now have space to kind of to look at the past, which I think is what Nietzsche was trying to do, and be like, what are the good things we can take from paganism? What are the things we could take from Christianity to create something new where there's space for truly great men?
I mean, that makes a lot of
Again, there's
sense.
probably some people out there getting really upset, you know, like by things that I'm saying here. But like, you know, for me, I just think, and not for nothing, like me being sober, I've seen a lot of people go through 12-step programs and stuff, and them finding Christianity was the greatest thing that ever happened to them. Again,
exactly.
I think it works for most people.
It's not necessarily, to me, Christianity. It's more so like the
structure. And not for nothing, I'm envious of Christians, because the left-hand path is not an easy path.
Yeah.
This sort of path is not a path that is well lit. It's not well traveled. It's not, you're kind of blazing your own. And it's like, when you're a Christian and you have, like, life starts getting dark and things get tough, there's a book you can turn to.
Yeah.
That book has all the answers. It's all in that book. If you just keep looking, you'll find it in that book. For a guy like me, like, I look at the whole world and be like, the answers are out there, but it's not in one book.
Yeah.
I don't know where that answer is going to come from, and I got to keep fighting for it. Like, you know, like, for me, like, I have hundreds upon thousands of books sitting in my tattoo shop and at home.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there might be an answer in any one of these, and I might not even own the book. Yeah. And I might need to just go find it for myself.
Yeah. I mean, you know, sometimes it's just, you got to look within.
Yep.
You know, for me, that's that's how I've had to find some answers, is like, really go hard and go within. You know, I mean, even this, as you said, like, it could be a mushroom trip, you know, that you could be using some tools, being out in nature or something like that, but like, really focusing within, that'll tell you what you need to know.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
The path I'm on definitely tests you in a lot of ways that I never thought I would, you know, but I'm okay with that. It forces growth constantly.
I'm really put off by the revulsion of the flesh type of thing. And in kind of reading some of the old Stoics and classics and philosophy, and like Sun and Steel by Yukio Mishima was like a huge book for, like,
I think I got that book here.
A huge book for changing my mentality and stuff like that. But it's like this idea of the flesh and the spirit being conjoined.
Yeah.
And I read the Jesus myth as like, you know, this whole idea of him being crucified and all these other things and having to carry the cross. I'm like, it's right fucking there, dude. Like, the body is fucking important.
Yeah.
Like, it's the vehicle. It's the, like, that's how the divine can manifest here on earth.
Mm-hmm.
I look at ancient paganism, and it's like, there's still this virtue in being strong, being capable, being able to, you know, like, and seeing, I think from an outsider perspective, the way that me and you kind of ritualize and like look at a barbell as a spiritual object seems corny and cartoonish to a lot of outsiders, but like it's because it comes from a different philosophy.
Yeah.
You know, like you see physical training, you know, which if you went back to the time of Plato and Socrates and Marcus Aurelius and all these guys, Heraclitus, like these guys were all known for being accomplished athletes as much as they were philosophers.
But we kind of apply the concept of like all life is ritual.
Yep.
So we look at every action we take, you know, and obviously we fall short, right? But we put an emphasis on like everything that we do is ritualistic. It is a holy act.
Yep.
Right. And that's what makes that training, the barbell, important. That's a ritual tool, you know, and that applies to everything that you do. Like even for this is ritual to me because it's like, it's holy work, man.
Oh, dude, I'm so looking forward to the 50-mile ultra marathon trail run because I'm like, that is a shamanic fucking ritual that I am going to be undertaking. And I am so looking forward to suffering through that. Like, honestly.
Oh, I wish I could come join you. And like, I'm not a runner, but I don't know. I'd get there eventually, but damn.
Yeah.
Just to push myself through it.
Yeah, man. Cause it's like, you know, suffering keeps you honest, you know, and it's like, you could choose your suffering, you know, it's like, you're going to suffer in this life, you know, like it's inescapable, you know, and it's like choosing your suffering, there's power in that. And it makes you more prepared when more comes your way. Yeah.
There's a Warhammer quote. Suffering is our prayer. Faith is our armor. That's what the Hari says. Yeah. And that's something that always sticks to my mind. I think suffering is a beautiful thing. And I think a lot of people cling to different beliefs to avoid suffering. But like in comfort comes like the worst.
I think comfort is the spirit of our age. I think you could sum up most of the problems in society with we chase comfort above all.
Yeah.
You know, like if you view it from that lens, it's like a lot of things that seem disparate and non-connected. All of a sudden, if you view it through that lens, you're like, we really do have a culture that's obsessed with comfort and like, just finding the easy way out of everything. And, you know, it's the easy way isn't always the better way because you end up missing out, you know, like you miss out on all the growth that you get along the way.
You know, you talk about our backgrounds, your childhood. I mean, you were born into like some chaos, you know, I was born into, you know, my family wasn't like that. But, so I'm working on a book I'll put out one day, but I've titled it The Storm I Chose. Because I chose to go into the storms. Like I could have gone to college and been squared away and got a good job and all these things, but that wasn't for me. I don't know.
Well,
something deeper chose a storm that was like, hey, let's keep going through this. Let's face our own adversities. Let's create adversity. Why? And I can reflect on it now. I'm like, dude, I'm so grateful for all that experience, man. I've learned so much shit by just putting myself in those positions, right?
That's the Siddhartha story though. You know, the Buddha, you know, like he grew up in affluence and like was sheltered from all the bad things in the world. And he chose to walk away from it, you know, like to go directly into the storm.
Yeah.
You know, and to be like, I'm going to sit here and like experience death and pain and suffering and old age and all these things that I was sheltered from, you know, and he walked away from that life. So, you know, like in a lot of ways, like I see, even if you came from a background that seemed to be like that, it's like it's inescapable for us as human beings. You know, it's the first, you know, kind of law in Buddhism is, you know, life is suffering.
Yeah.
Which, you know, is completely true. That's the path that we're on.
Yeah.
So understanding that that's like just part and parcel with being alive, you know, like, and I think, you know, it's like Nietzsche says, you know, like he who has his why can bear any how.
You know, you're talking about your path and your aesthetic with your shop and everything like that. And it's like, oh, like the shock, right?
Yeah.
But it forces people to dive beneath, go past the layer, that first layer. And I think I'm huge on that. I've had people tell me like, dude, you're the epitome of don't judge a book. Yeah. You know, this dude at the car dealership, one of the salesmen, he was like, I'm not gonna lie, you pulled up. And I was like, dude, this guy's gonna be some work. He's like, you're the coolest customer we've ever had. You know, we had this deep conversation about life, you know, because I can't go anywhere without having those kind of conversations. But long story short, man, and I think it's cool. I think it's really, I don't know, we're the same in that aspect. Like showing people the surface, it's almost like if they're not willing to try to go past that, then it almost saves you from wasting the time with them too. You know, like I want people that want to dive further, you know, actually understand somebody. Because there's so much more.
it's the disconnect that a lot of people have, especially today. You see a lot of people, even people that aren't religious, but like there's so much emphasis put on what you believe, not what you say, you know, or what you do rather. There's so much emphasis on like having the right beliefs, you know, like that's the most important thing is like, you know, it's like this, like, well, who did you vote for kind of thing, you know? And it's like, people don't look at the actions that you take in life and hold that with as much weight. And that's like very bizarre to me,
Yeah.
you know, that like we should be putting more emphasis on, yeah, the things that people do on the day to day. So if you see the aesthetic that I'm putting forward and that's all you need to like write me off, like, oh, well, you know, I don't agree with the symbols he uses or whatever, then like, you know, sayonara to you, you know, like I could care less. But like somebody that's willing to look beyond that and see like, you know, the actions of the person standing before them
Yeah.
and what they're truly putting out there and realizing that that has a bigger impact, then those are my people. You know?
110%. Well, I wrote a piece about, I said I'm faith-based too. I don't know if you saw that, but it was talking about like a lot of businesses I collaborate with or talk to, like they're faith-based. And I'm like,
Yep.
so am I. I have faith.
Yeah.
You know, it just looks a little different than yours.
Yep.
What led you into like that left-hand path too?
I think there was a lot of things. I think just the kind of imagery came from, you know, my interest in heavy metal and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of knew these things were out there. Like I said, my grandmother was kind of a little unorthodox in her religious practice. So that kind of showed me that there were other things out there. And then when I was a young child, like probably as early as 6, 7, I had a lot of like sleep paralysis type of things and stuff. I remember actually I had this one instance where there was like a shadowy figure standing over my bed all night and I was terrified. I told my mother about it the next morning. She told me it was an angel. And I remember thinking, if that was an angel, then fuck angels.
Those guys are scary.
Like, you know, holy shit. And then you find out later, you know, the whole like, you know, be not afraid, you know, and how terrifying angels truly are. And I was, yeah, when I was a teenager, I was big into punk and hardcore music and stuff. And I found like I was really into a lot of the 90s hardcore bands like 108 and the Cro-Mags and stuff and that kind of thing, which introduced me to Hare Krishna, which then led me to like Buddhism. And I think around that time I found like I picked up Peter Singer's Animal Liberation, and that was like a book that pushed me towards veganism at the time. I started hanging out with like, you know, at the Hare Krishna temple when I went out to Brooklyn and stuff and everything else, and just became interested in paganism. And then when I was in college, I think at that point I probably also came across the Satanic Bible, which is an atheistic book. I think it actually resonated more with my kind of libertarian leanings.
Like breaking away from just like the religious structure. Yeah,
and a lot of it's kind of Nietzsche-like.
Yeah.
Honestly. And I remember though in college I was taking an Irish literature course, and I had already been interested in kind of like Hinduism and Buddhism and those sorts of like forms of paganism. I was probably aware of Wicca and those sorts of things. But I remember this Irish literature professor was talking about kind of this turn of the century occult revival that was going on within the Irish literature scene of like James Joyce and all that kind of stuff. And they were bringing back kind of druidry, mixing in some like Eastern mysticism, and like Thelema and the Golden Dawn had all these like connections with Aleister Crowley and stuff. And I was like, my hand shot up so fast. I was like, wait, tell me more about that. Like what that is. So this was my first kind of foray into like Western occultism.
Yeah.
And she was like, I don't know that much about it. All I know is that like, you know, William Butler Yeats and all this kind of stuff were involved with and friendly with Aleister Crowley and kind of this ritual magic stuff. And I ran to the school library and took out like a whole bunch of books on like, you know, the Golden Dawn and all this kind of stuff and got interested in that stuff. And it kind of cracked open this whole Western esotericism sort of thing. And eventually I found Norse paganism. I looked into like the Obad and Druidry and all this kind of stuff and everything else, and just found it all super interesting. And then I eventually also found Luciferianism and kind of the more theistic side of left-hand path stuff, chaos Gnosticism, like, you know, all the stuff that Watain and Dissection and all those guys kind of come out of Arcanum, and really dove headfirst into that stuff and tried to kind of pull out what I could from all of these different places. And that's all kind of informed my spiritual views to this day. Like I've kind of just amalgamated a bunch of different views that all came from me looking for answers when I was having these occult experiences. And I remember seeing a lot of ghosts and like just having a lot of different paranormal experiences throughout being a child, that I was looking for answers, and, you know, like eventually finding a lot of different answers to that question. And I still don't think I've ever solved everything, but I don't think I ever will. And I'm kind of fine with that, because I've found a system that works for me, and I think it keeps me going and gives me meaning and my why in life.
Yeah.
And like I was saying, you know, like it's all an operating system. And for me, like I found one that gives me plenty of room for growth and becoming more powerful and just trying to, you know, make the most out of this life.
Yeah,
you know?
dude. And I love that, man, because like I'm listening to some of the stuff you say, and I haven't dove into a lot of that stuff. I mean, I've heard these terms like you were talking about with the band Watain and whatnot, like the things they're into.
Yeah.
But I haven't dove a lot into that. But then my heart's what's guided me, right? There's still, like, in my own ways, I'm constantly striving to grow.
You could find PDF copies for free online if you look for them, from like Liber Felixifer and like.
Oh, really?
A lot of the books that like are part of that current 218, which is like a lot of the foundational stuff that like all of those Chaos Gnostics, Swedish metal bands are into and stuff.
But you're just looking at it for information too. You know what I'm saying? And you're kind of like you're trying to understand so much different stuff. And at the end of the day, it all comes down to your path.
Yep.
Right. And I think you're a righteous dude, you know? And so it's interesting, because a lot of people hear some of these things, these terms, they'll be like, oh, he's evil. You know what I'm saying? Like right off the bat. But what would you suggest to that point if someone?
I mean, like I said, if that's all they need to hear, then good riddance, you know? But like if they're not open to hearing anything else, but this happens time and time again. I have religious people that come into the tattoo shop and they'll ask me about like, oh, what's up with the upside down crosses on the wall? And it starts a conversation with them. We're like, hey, what's with the 666 tattooed on your neck? And the funny thing is, I could tell them is like, it's actually very contested whether the Book of Revelation is even a spiritual text proper.
Yeah. Because
during the time that it was written, it was under the Emperor Nero. Nero made it, he was one of the most infamously harsh on Christians, you know, emperors that ever was. And you weren't allowed to criticize the emperor during that period or any political figures and that kind of stuff. So it's argued that these monks actually wrote the Book of Revelations as a political text that was veiled as a spiritual text, you know? So it's not actually talking about the end of times. It's talking about their current day Roman Empire.
Yeah.
Now, if you read the original Greek that it's in, they say that the number of the beast is actually not 666, it's 616, which if you translate in numerology spells Nero. Now, later translations change it to 666.
My mentor told me about this, actually.
Yeah. They changed it to 666 because they thought it sounded better.
Because like Xi Chi Sigma or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got that from Rotting Christ. There's I put that on my leg. Yeah.
But like if I got 616 tattooed on my neck, people would just be like, oh, what area code is that? You know, like, so I'm like, you know, and just fucking Iron Maiden's fucking awesome. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's like people, I'm like, you need to dig deeper, you know, like people don't know why the modern Bible is Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, or that there was other fucking books. And it's like, why is it Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? Because of the Council of Nicaea.
Yeah.
You know, like there were other books, and people don't know that the first Crusades were actually in part against fellow Christians that believed in the books that were deemed heretical, the Gnostics.
Yeah.
You know, so a lot of these other sects, and I'm like, you know, it's like, I feel like even if you are a Christian, you should be willing to look and question like why people believe the things they do. I think that a lot of Christians would benefit from reading, for instance, the Gospel of Thomas. Really incredible book. I enjoyed reading it a lot. And what's interesting about that book is if you ever read it, there's nothing in it about the crucifixion, the miracle birth, the resurrection, any of that stuff. The book is basically like people coming up to Jesus and asking him questions about common life problems. You have everybody from like politicians to like business owners to like normal people, children, a priest. Anybody comes up to Jesus and says, Jesus, I have a problem. What do you think? And he's just giving his reasons.
Give me some insight.
And like some of them are really like, if you look at the answers he gives, you're like, I can understand why they didn't want this book, because a lot of it is like, you know, kind of anti-authoritarian. and like rather against things that the church was built upon. But otherwise, the book is extremely positive. There's a lot of like great spiritual insight in it. And I'm like, but just reading it, you're like, there's no wonder they didn't want this book.
Well, yeah, God forbid, like people believe that it's within them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
That gives them too much power.
And reading that book, I'm like, that could lead you to those conclusions. And those conclusions are dangerous if you're somebody who values control.
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
There's the book of Mary Magdalene, you know, like her version of one of my most interesting ones to me is the Gospel of Judas. It kind of tells his side of the story.
Yeah.
In that book, Judas basically says that Jesus came to him and essentially said like, hey man, you're my most trusted friend. Of all the apostles, you are the one I can trust the most. I need you to do me this favor. And Judas is like, absolutely, dude, anything you want. Like I'm here for you, of course. And he goes, I need you to rat me out to the Romans. And he starts sobbing. And he's basically like, why would I ever do that? He's like, because there's things that need to be set in motion and I trust you to do it. You know, he's like, I trust you above everybody else to make sure that the things that need to happen, happen.
Yeah.
And he goes, he's going to offer you this amount of silver, you take it. Whatever small amount it is, you take it. You know, and it shows Jesus as the architect of the entire thing and actually paints Judas as his most trusted apostle.
Oh,
Kind of changes the entire fucking, because
yeah.
he's the bad guy of the fucking Bible.
And then, yeah, so Christ can become a sacrifice, right? Yeah. And leading to that, I believe that Christ almost like, it goes right along with what you're saying. Like he planned this whole thing to become sacrificed.
Which when you think about the Odin myth, of him
yes,
sacrificing himself, I'm like, that is very Odinic.
That
man.
piece
like,
told you I wrote, like that's like one of the first connections, self-sacrifice for humanity. Bringing the knowledge of the runes to humanity.
Even amongst Norse pagans, I kind of have a bit of a different belief when it comes to Odin's involvement in Ragnarok. Because for me, like, you see this dichotomy throughout the Eddas and all the stories of Odin being kind of this outlaw, outsider god, who's misunderstood by the other gods. He has this blood pact that you don't really understand the nature of with Loki, who's just the embodiment of chaos. Most of Odin's names throughout the stories are negative, things like evildoer and this kind of stuff. And he's known for just being like kind of shady.
Yeah.
You know? And he's kind of thrust into this political position of being like in a leadership role and like being this, and he wants to be a wanderer. He wants to be out there like in the thick of it, but he's kind of thrust into having to do these political roles as like the head of the gods.
Yeah.
Now, I think he knows full well what's going to happen during Ragnarok, and he knows that it's going to be at the hand of Fenris that he's going to die.
Yeah.
I think that Odin looks at Fenris, though, and goes, that is the pure outlaw spirit of what I wish I could be. And I think that he thought it was poetic justice and right that he would die at the hands of that part of himself that he wouldn't allow to be his entire being. He's like, that is the pure outlaw spirit of what I'm supposed to be. So it's only right that he devours me.
It's an interesting concept.
Yep. And so I think that Odin was the only god going into that fight that was like, here's where I die, and that is justice.
Damn. I dig that.
You know, and that's why Thor ends up beating the serpent, but then succumbs to the poison minutes later, still fighting.
Yeah.
Because Thor thought that he could fight through that.
Yeah.
He thought deep down, like, fuck you, I'm not going to die.
Yeah.
Odin goes, no, this is my last stand. And that is my just desserts for the double life that I've lived.
Huh. I'm going to have to dive a little more into this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for that. It's pretty cool concept though. I appreciate it. And you talked about Loki, right? And it's interesting because I had this list and it's too long to like read through now, but you talked about Loki just being chaos. That's his traits: change, chaos, transformation. But the aspect of the soul that I see is necessary disruption for truth to emerge.
Oh, you think about it, all the greatest things that happened to all the gods are because Loki inserted some chaos.
So how does Christ parallel to that? Christ declared, I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. Disruptive truth.
Yep.
Just like Loki. So you see these connections, man.
Yep.
So much deeper. You'll like that whole piece, dude. It's pretty cool. I'm gonna publish it, but
please send it my way. I'd love to check it out.
Yeah, I'll send it to you for sure. We pretty much covered most of your story.
Like,
I mean, up to your tattoo shop.
Yeah, I think we've kind of come full circle. I felt like I left out some of the occult aspects and how I got into all the wacky spirituality stuff. So we went back and touched on that a little bit, but like,
Okay.
for the most part, you know, like, I think we've kind of gotten the overarch of how I ended up here. And, you know, like from the beginning, I was saying like, my life is really good now,
Yeah.
but like, that was, you know, a war that's been long fought. And like, you know, I look at my life now, I'm a homeowner. We're looking to, you know, build a family in the future, getting married in 2 months.
Yeah.
You know, like I've had to cut a lot of friends. I've had to cut a lot of people, but like, I feel like the people I do keep in my circle now, like, you know, even you guys like you included, even though we don't stay in touch that often, it's like, I know these great men and like, I stay inspired knowing that you're out there killing it. Anytime I feel lonely on the path, I'm like, I know fucking Joe's headed to work right now and he's not going to fucking let up. So I can't either.
You know, it's an easy thing it's easy to feel, it's almost isolate yourself and feel lonely on it because sometimes you just have those days, man. So it's a cool reminder to know that the other guys are fighting that good fight as well.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and you're like, I don't want to get left behind.
Yeah. I don't want to get left behind. Like they're doing it. I got to go do it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. There's no excuses, man. And it's cool because like, I know people here and far, such as yourself. I know some guys up in P&W, stuff like that, that are fighting a similar fight, man. It's really cool to be able to like, just not even have to say anything, just acknowledge it. Like, oh yeah, they're crushing it. I know they are. So it's cool to have the relationships that I do, man. And almost 10 years later, here we are, you know, chatting at a totally different chapters in our life.
Yep.
And it's come full circle. And I've gotten to hear your whole story for the most part, man. It's been fucking rad.
Yeah.
You know, real quick, sobriety and discipline. What was a factor of like this becoming sober?
So one of my best friends, growing up, it was kind of one of the relationships I had to cut. He kind of fell harder and harder into alcoholism. A lot of my friends, it just kind of became like what my friends would call European drinking.
Mm-hmm.
We're basically like, you never really got like fully wasted very often, but it was like, you know, you wake up in the morning, we're going to chop some wood for 2 hours. You have 2 beers. Then like, you know, we're going to go have breakfast. Yeah, you have another drink at breakfast. You have another drink at lunch.
Yeah.
You have 2 in the afternoon. Then you have dinner. Maybe you have 3 or 4. It's like by the end of the day, you had a 12 pack or 15.
Yeah.
You know, like you never really were drunk, but like, and then on the weekend you drink a couple more and you get a little buzz on with your friends and whatever else. And I saw a lot of my friends slipping into that. My fiance actually, like, she used to go to raves and like parties and festivals and stuff. And when we started dating, she was kind of actively trying to get away from that stuff. And I was kind of feeling like I wanted to walk away from all of it too. And I was like, hey, I'll do this shit with you. And at the time, my friend who was falling really, really hard into alcoholism, I was really trying to help him. And he kept making my life harder and harder. Like, I remember actually he ended up getting drunk and almost hitting a guy who was walking his dog and tried to call the cops on him. He tried to hide his car at my house. The police were out looking for him. I was covering for the guy. There was another time we went to an art show that was run by a tattoo artist that I really look up to. And this guy is like one of the giants in the industry. And he showed up wasted, got in a fight outside the venue with somebody and was touching the sculptures inside. I ended up smacking him around outside. He would say he ran into an ex-girlfriend of mine out at a bar. And this girl was devastated when we originally broke up. And we were on good talking terms. Like, I could bump into her and be like, you know, hey, how have you been? You know, like, good to see you, this kind of stuff. We were on good talking terms.
Yeah.
He ran into her and he was just basically like, oh, you know what would be funny? He was telling her, he's like, oh, Pat talks about you all the time. Like, you're this big mistake that he made. He just doesn't know how to like rekindle it. He doesn't know how to tell you and this and that.
Hell?
And all of a sudden, like, she got drunk at the bar with him and she's just texting me nonstop. I woke up the next morning with like, oh my God, like, you know, I miss you. And it just reopened all these wounds. And I like approached him about it. I'm like, yo, what the fuck is wrong with you? And he's like, it was funny, wasn't it? You know, I'm like, no, it wasn't fucking funny.
No, that's not okay.
It was like every other weekend, he just was coming up with new ways. And it ended up with like me and him, like literally getting in a fist fight on his front lawn and shit. And I was just like, I need to walk away from this.
Yeah.
And a lot of my other friends kind of were like, nah, Pat, you being a judgmental dickhead. And I'm like, dude, you haven't been there for all of all these different things that have happened.
Yeah.
And it kind of split up my friend group. And honestly, like my friend group got a lot smaller after that.
Yeah.
But I was better off for it.
Yeah.
And like, you know, it's been, for me, that was a big catalyst though, for me seeing, I just didn't want to even be a part of that. And then at the time, like that was right around the time I started the tattoo shop. And I was like, I need myself to be 100% there and committed to this endeavor that I'm taking on. And I need to get fucking serious.
Yeah.
So like, I don't see how that's supporting anything I want to do. I love training. I love trying to fucking build a family. I just got in a relationship. Like I want to take this shit seriously. I want to take this business seriously. I'm trying to create a life for myself.
Yeah.
It's not helping any of it.
Yeah.
So like now when it's Friday, Saturday night and I'm getting off of work, going to the bar and hanging out with a bunch of people and wasting time and all this other shit, spending money I don't need to, it doesn't even enter my mind.
Never.
I'm going to go home, get some sleep, and at like 5:30 a.m., I'm in the gym fucking bench pressing.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, it never crossed my mind to be sitting out fucking drinking.
And life is good.
Yeah. It's fucking incredible. I love it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, people ask me all the time, like, oh, how's it going, Pat? I'm like, I'm living Groundhog's Day and I'm not mad about it.
Yeah.
I wake up almost every day and do the same shit. I wake up, I fucking train, I go home, my chick makes me fucking breakfast, you know, like I play with my dog. And then like I go to work and maybe I ride my bicycle the 10 miles to work, you know, I tattoo all day and then I ride home.
Yeah.
You know, or I ride my motorcycle or whatever, you know, and it's like, I tattoo 7 days a week, you know, yeah, I'm not at the shop like for a full 8-hour day all the time. Like maybe I come in for 3 hours, do a small one and go home.
Yeah.
But like every day is the same for me, you know, like, and it's the best. It's by design. Like I want to do all the things I love every fucking day. I go to work, I turn on my favorite fucking black metal record and I fucking tattoo all day.
What's your favorite record?
Oh, I don't know. I can't really nail one. You know, but,
Yeah, I know. It's hard to niche.
I mean, if I had to pick one, I'm going to say Dissection and then maybe Exercises in Futility by Megala.
Nice.
But I'm going to say all 3 Dissection records and maybe Exercises in Futility.
Yeah, I love
Let the Devil In by Sargeist is pretty up there. Maybe Lawless Darkness, Watain, that would be pretty.
That's a really good album.
Yeah, I think I absolutely love The Wild Hunt. I know that a lot of
Dude, I
fans,
love The Wild Hunt. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's lame that people don't. And I think Trident Wolf Eclipse, which is easily Watain's most boring album, that came after it, is the product of, I can't confirm this, but I think they listened to the fans that thought that The Wild Hunt was too experimental and too out there, and they in turn wrote a C-tier, boring-ass record.
Yeah, dude, I agree. I'm right there with you. Like, I haven't thought about it like that, but now that you say it, I'm going to jump on board with that. Because The Wild Hunt's is shit, dude. Like, it's one of my favorites.
Eric leaned into the fact, like, Eric is not good at doing traditional black metal vocals. Yeah. He's not the best. Like, he can't be John Nodvite. Now, John Nodvite, like, archetypal, that's the way black metal vocals are done.
Yeah.
You listen to that Let the Devil In record by fucking Sargeist. That's the way black metal vocals are done. You listen to Watain, like, you know, you can even hear like instances where Watain has tried to cover Dissection. I don't think Eric does a great job at imitating those type of vocals.
Yeah.
I think when he really leans into the uniqueness of his vocal style and the things that he brings to the table, it's fucking nobody else can. Dude, you give 400 other singers the opportunity to do vocals on They Rode On.
Yeah.
You're never going to get that same fucking performance. It's weird as shit.
Yeah.
His vocals on like, you know, fucking a lot of the songs on The Wild Hunt are like really unique.
Yeah, they are.
Like, and then you listen to Trident Wolf Eclipse and he's trying to go back to doing the typical black metal vocal. I appreciate now that like the Agony and Ecstasy of Watain, their most recent record, they've kind of allowed some of that experimentation to come back in, the slower stuff and everything. I still acknowledge that Lawless Darkness is probably their best. I think Selim from The Devil's Blood being on that record is part of the reason why it's so fucking good.
Yeah.
Like Waters of Vine will forever be my favorite track.
Yeah,
and
that's a good song.
That whole song is basically just him fucking guitar wankery all over that whole thing. But like, it's incredible, you know? It reminds me of the Shining song, For the God Below.
I haven't listened to The Shining in a long time. I got to give him a better shot.
Go back, especially that record, Helmstead.
Okay.
Like, you know, I like the newest one they just came out with a lot too, but yeah, big Shining fan.
All right. Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I love this, man. It's you got some of those vocals too that, you know, you get some artists that they could like Marduk could put out the same album like 10 times in a row and it'd be like, hell yeah, because
controversial opinion, I'm not the biggest Panzer Division
really
guy. You know, like I'm like, I get it. It's fast. I get bored, you know, like, and then you listen to the stuff when Mortiz finally joined the band and like brought in some of that creepy, weird experimental stuff coming in from Funeral Mist. And all of a sudden the band got interesting.
Funeral Mist is sick.
Yeah. And like you kind of interjected some of that stuff. Cause for me, like Marduk got stale for a little while where it was just like,
yeah, the song with like Soul, what album is it? Was Souls for Belial.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about? Like that's a little bit more experimental.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's the stuff that's like, I like that stuff.
Yeah,
know?
I do
like,
too.
Granted, you know, I'm always like the weird prog stuff and like, you know, really creepy, odd shit. Like I like that stuff. I like Bethlehem. I like, you know, Zather and like all these type of stuff. Or like, I'll throw on Silencer at the shop all the time, like
Yeah.
fucking, sounds like a drunken clown doing vocals, or Faust and these type of bands. Like I like all those like weird Arcturus and Borknagar and
Oh, I love Borknagar. I saw them play with
yeah.
Rotting Christ here.
Yep.
That was a great show.
I
Man.
love all those more experimental bands. Like, it's like
I do too. I feel you. We dove into your history, where you're at today, your childhood really in depth, what led you to owning your own tattoo shop? This is a beautiful story. And I do got to ask, why'd you choose moving back to home? Like opening a shop at home?
I just didn't really feel like I had any other options. And, like it wasn't in I never thought of owning my own shop this early on. I always thought it was something that'd be cool to do eventually. But like I was saying earlier, I kind of got thrust into a position where I kind of had to figure it out and sink or swim. And I didn't really think at the time that I could function in the same environment working for somebody else.
Yeah.
I felt like I needed to kind of create my own thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes life necessitates that. I always thought that maybe me owning my own shop, I'd be like 50.
Yeah.
When I was ready to like stop tattooing as much and I could just manage the place. And there I am at 29, opening my own shop, like been tattooing 6 years at that point. But like, I'll tell you, it felt like a blink, and it's weird now feeling like it's been another 5-6 years since then. It feels like everything just keeps going by in flash.
Yeah.
It's it's hard to hold on to the ride.
What would you tell a younger version of yourself? So you can go back to, that 17-year-old Patrick.
Learn to love the process. That's it. I wouldn't even try and like tell myself to avoid this, that, or the other thing, even if I knew exactly how it went.
Yeah.
I would just tell myself learn to love the process. And also, I think throughout my life, when I was younger, up until I want to say the last few years, I allowed people who were jealous and didn't want to do work on themselves and took other people's successes as personal attacks to have me actually shoot myself in the foot and not allow myself to celebrate when I had a victory. Like I remember when the shop was doing really well, I bought myself a really nice car and everything like that. And a lot of people made me feel shame for like having a nice car. And I remember like wanting to park on the back of the building so that nobody would see the nice car that I bought.
Isn't that crazy?
Because other people got offended by it. They're like, who the fuck you think you are driving a car like that?
Damn.
And I was like, all right, I guess I'll park it at the end of the parking lot and walk so that nobody has to be offended by my sign of success, or like I can't, when I'm sitting down to eat with somebody who's like a, distant family member or something, or somebody who hasn't really done the work on themselves. And I can't talk about that. I just won this award at a convention and, cause I won 6 tattoo awards at the Milwaukee Tattoo Convention a few years back for tattooing my fiance's back. And I'm like, I can't talk about my wins around these people because they get upset and they take it like, well, what do you think, you're better than me? And it's like, you need to find your space away from those people and like find your even if it's alone, but especially if you could find other people that are like, fuck yeah, dude, that's fucking awesome. Like, let's take a moment to fucking celebrate that.
Yeah.
Like, don't let other people poison the well.
Bro, like you've got to shuffle. I've had somebody message me that was a friend of mine tell me I'm just never going to make a good living doing what I'm doing, that I need to focus on providing my family and all this stuff. And, it's all really negative. Like, I know you think you got this purpose and all.
Yep.
And I was just like, at first I was like, this motherfucker, dude. Like, at the end of the day, I was like, oh, this person started a business. They didn't last a year. People just hate to see you going when they couldn't or whatever, or take risk when they won't. That's
the thing that hurts too, is because these are people that you let into your inner circle.
People that you love, that you would do things for. Yeah.
Because you know what? It's like you look at most people out there, and that's probably an opinion a lot of people hold. But then to hear it from somebody that you let into your circle.
And they started with, I'll always love you.
Yeah.
Man, what a fucked up version of love that is.
Yeah.
But then I see in real time the opportunity that's coming into my life, and I see the people that are in it, and I'm like, you have no idea what's going on. So
they say that the opposite of love isn't hate, it's fear. And when you look at a situation like that, that's exactly right. Because they're operating out of a place of fear.
Yeah, 100%.
Like they're coming to you saying that, like, I always love you, but And that's because the fear took over.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
fear's winning.
A lot of times the things people say like that are just a reflection of something within them.
Yep.
You just got to like, yeah, it can hurt for a second, but you just kind of move forward. Be like, damn, that sucks. Just keep going. Those situations are meant to throw you off, but maybe to get you to react in some way and come outside of where you're trying to operate at. Now, you've been through some dark places. Knowing that someone out there is in a dark place like that, what would you say to them? What kind of value would you give to them to help them get through it?
I think a lot of people get caught up, and even if they're not conscious of it, they hold average or normal in their head as some kind of standard. The truth of the matter is if you look at like the average person, the normal person, they're miserable. They're in debt. They fucking have shitty relationships. They're fucking, dependent on like, even if it's not drugs or alcohol, it's like, they go home and binge Netflix all the time. And that's what they're looking forward to.
Yeah.
They're trying to escape from the 9 to 5. They're trying to like, and it's like understanding that this hardship, this darkness and stuff, it's a part of life. And you need to learn how to become like, don't ask for a lighter burden, ask for broader shoulders.
Yeah.
You need to learn to love the process and start like engaging with it and realize that like, that's the epitome of positive masculinity, especially if I'm talking to a man here. It's like, like you learning to weather storms and to be resilient and to come out the other side even more powerful. That's your biggest fucking like tool as a man, so, and that's the product of like this comfort age that we're living in, is that like people avoid the hard stuff. That's literally the thing that's it's the cost of entry for the type of person that you want to be.
The fear of the storm is worse than the storm itself.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And if you want to be an outlier, if you don't want to be average, then you're going to have to do unaverage things.
Yep. And that means walk through a lot of freaking storms.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
choose the hard path.
You know what? And I tell you what, dude, I love that shit.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's the funny thing is when you start to understand that and you go through a number of trials, you start to kind of fetishize it.
Yeah. You're like,
oh my God, I cannot wait for the next fucking.
I'm built for this shit.
Yeah. Yeah. More weight.
Come on. Yeah. You become more welcoming to that adversity. You know what I'm saying? And I think years ago, like I'm approaching certain situations now way different than I would years ago, and I'm like fucking proud of that, but you got to go through it to get to that strength.
Yep.
So, and, I appreciate that, man. But my final question for you, Patrick, I ask everybody this: what is your relentless pursuit?
I feel like something I've been pretty obsessed with my entire life. And even if I wasn't conscious of it early on, is this kind of like synthesis, all the things that I'm interested in, all of the places where I feel like I can bring value. I want my life to really be all working in synthesis for that one goal of just being the most effective, the most powerful, the most like, I want to be a living myth.
Yeah.
And then striving for that. Like it's absolutely impossible for me to become a deity in the flesh, but I think that it's the most worthwhile pursuit.
Yeah.
To try and become more like that. And for me, like I look at like autodidacts and polymaths from history, like, people like Da Vinci and whatnot, or, like Henry Rollins from Black Flag, or like these guys. And I'm like, their output, their proliferation, their power, the stuff that they left behind, their legacy seems like so otherworldly. Like, how could a man accomplish all of this? And I look at those type of men and I'm like, I want to be one of those type of men.
Yeah.
Somebody that leaves behind, like, and you're like, how did one guy do this? Almost to the point where you don't believe that one guy could have done it.
Yeah.
Like, no, there's something else afoot there.
There's no way.
Yeah. And I think that comes from, though, making all your pursuits kind of like go in the same direction.
Alignment.
Yeah. Those things that aren't congruent, for me, it was drinking, partying, all that kind of stuff. It wasn't in alignment. If I want to literally be producing and creating the life that I want to live, I can't be inviting this thing that's going to be going against the current.
100%.
But for me, like now I own a tattoo studio and I just started this personal training business. We were talking about it's called Ashen Temple Coaching. I only have 2 clients at the moment, but they're already being very successful. My one client, he's down about 50 pounds in a few months that we've been working together. Yeah. And, I'm like really excited to start building this new thing because for me, like training is a big part of my life. Now I get to share that kind of knowledge and that passion with other people. And for me, being in the tattoo industry, I see all of these tattoo artists that are like complaining about hand, neck, and back pain. And it's like, I've even, some of the tattooers that I've looked up to and learned from the most are like recently, really tragically having heart attacks, aneurysms. I just went to a funeral a couple months ago for a local tattooer who was like 45, but he was obese and like he died. And like, I was heartbroken over that whole thing. And, I'm sick of seeing it, you know, like, so for me, like I'm already embedded in the tattoo industry. If I can be a positive influence and help other tattooers to be healthy and understand how they can have more longevity in the industry and just help people in general, you know, like, I don't know if you know Arthur from Rep Temple.
Yeah.
So like,
I like his style.
Arthur is like so narrow with his, like, cause he's like specifically metalheads.
Yeah.
And metalheads here need to hear the exact same stuff. And I love the fact that he's gone so narrow to just like, oh, I want to work with metalheads.
Yeah, no, I saw that too. I was like, that's cool.
It's fucking great, you know. Like, and for me, like my niche that I'm already in is tattooing, you know. Like,
yeah.
And you know, I'm also like involved in like, you know, some occult circles and that kind of stuff and everything else. So like, I know that I'm extremely niche in my kind of interest, but for me, like me kind of pulling in these kind of systems that I've used as tools to create and build myself a life that I think is worth living.
Yeah.
It's something I want to share with other people.
Yeah.
And through my coaching and through my apprenticeships and building the tattoo shop and creating this environment and creating even myself like a home life, a marriage, like my potential future family that I'm building and everything, like creating these environments, you know, it's like that opening line in The Departed, like, you know, I want to be a product of, you know, I want my environment to be a product of me. I don't want to be a product of my environment. That's exactly it, you know? So it's like, and that's true magic, you know, like Aleister Crowley says, you know, it's the, you know, using the will to create, you know, something in reality that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And so that's my highest, you know, kind of aim is utilizing that becoming mythic and creating a life and then helping others to kind of in a positive way infect outwards to like, you know, hey man, take control of your life. This magic shit is fucking crazy and you can create the whatever fucking reality you want.
What a fucking powerful message. Hell yeah, dude.
Right on.
I mean, I just love the variety I get, but that was so cool. Yeah, creating your own myth, man.
Yep.
Yeah, becoming that.
Write your own gospels, live your own myth. That's a common Gnostic axiom.
Yeah, becoming that, you know, some people say like that solar hero or whatever it is. You know, you read about all these guys and
again,
like,
you look at
become someone like that. Like, hey, these people were remembered for thousands of years. Their stories were told. Like, how epic would it be?
And if you're a Christian out there, you know, Jesus, he was a man. He walked among us. Again, he showed you the path. You know, like there's a way. And, you know, or if you're a pagan, you could look at Hercules, you know, he also was a man who ascended to something much more. You know, it's possible for all of us. And that was their lesson in my mind, is that it is possible.
Yes.
And then you look at Nietzsche too, and he's talking about the Übermensch. And maybe Nietzsche doesn't quite as clearly see the pathway, but he's pointing to it and he knows that it exists. There is a way for us to ascend beyond this animal nature, this current point in evolution that we're at. There's so much more that we're capable of. And I look at myself every day and I think on an individual level, like there's so much more I'm capable of.
Yeah.
No matter what new plateau I reach, I'm like, all right, how do I get to the next one?
Dude, hell yeah. Patrick, thank you, man. Today has been an honor. I think that concludes it, bro.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
Feel great.
Dude, this is a great time.
Yeah.
I appreciate your
Happy
time.
to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, guys, this is good. This is a long episode, but definitely worth it. This is awesome. And to get you coming from New York, dude, I mean, that means the world.
Make it.
Yeah, for sure. Guys, if y'all want anything else, I'm going to be asking Patrick some quick questions, you know, maybe some deeper, maybe some more lighthearted. But the only way you can hear that is at the Relentless Pursuit Patreon. So you can find that at the link below. Check it out. I'm going to be doing that with all my guests. It'll be giving you some great added value and stuff you may want to know. So, and along with a bunch of other stuff. Anyways, I'm bad with the outro shit. You're looking at me like, okay, what is he getting at? No. Anyways, if you want more, go to Patreon. It's going to be great. But that being said, dude, thank you for your time. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Till next time. This isn't just a podcast. This is my life's work. In a world full of noise, debate, filters, and artificial content, this platform is real. It's raw. It's human. Every episode, we dive deep into stories that matter. Pain, purpose, transformation. We're here to give people a voice, speak truth, and connect through something deeper than algorithms. And we're growing fast. We've already reached over 20 million views across all platforms, with an audience that is loyal, engaged, and passionate about this show because it speaks to the soul. If your business or brand believes in authenticity, if you value marketing through something that reflects your values and aligns with real impact, then this is your opportunity. Sponsorship isn't just support, it's fuel. It's how I keep this mission alive. It's how I continue to shine light on powerful, untold stories that need to be heard. If you want to reach people, not just through metrics, but through their hearts, their minds, and purpose, let's partner. Let's build something that matters.